Hello, that's Randy, your sewing machine man, and what we have is a Sears Kenmore Model 158 decimal 17031 for Billy Cook because he has a 15818 something series, but it's the button on top that we're talking about here because he said his doesn't have a clutch release, and that is in fact what his does not have. This is the one that they developed for folks who have grip issues. They made this for folks who just can't grab it and break it loose. And they really engineered it nicely, and they didn't expect the machine would ever have a downtime where it would get all, gummed up and locked up and not work and need to be serviced. But that's what happens if these things sit for a long time. A lot of times I'm buying these and I think, oh boy, this thing's pristine. It's never been used. And I go, oh, if it's never been used, it's going to be an issue getting it going. And I know where to oil and how to work it and all, but it's going to be labor getting it going. If it's used every single day, you'll get all the scratches on the bed plate and bangs and scratches and where the needle and zippers and stuff have hit it, but it's going to work like a charm. You put new motor brushes in it and maybe belts and you're ready to go. But when they've been sitting forever, they have little problems, and this one is usually the situation if it's been sitting forever and your little button on top. See, it's got the bobbin winder, standard bobbin winder, but it's got the button you push down. So when you wind in a bobbin, you just push this over and it winds. And when you're done winding, you shut it off, push your button back down, and the machine runs. If you disengage it and don't push the button down, sometimes it'll go, sometimes it won't, but it's always good to push the button down, and then you're back in gear. This engages, this disengages, and all the apparatus up here, it'll sit for a long time. And I'll pop the top off here. I'll show you how this works. You pop the top, take the thread off. Some scissors, be careful, those might cut something. Okay. And to get the top off, you open the side, and I put a slender screwdriver over here on this side, like so. Pop it up, like so. I'll move this camera. Sorry about that. It's going to be in so many places at once. The top lifts right off, and we go to the area that we'll be discussing, and it's right over here on this side, right here. When you push this down, it engages a little pawl over here. This pops up. This little guy right here. This pops up to drive and goes down to wind. So this releases. Machine's in gear, bobbin winder's in gear. That's how this works over here. And it should snap like that. And a lot of times you'll get them, and this is tightened up, this is tightened up. And it requires some elbow grease, some penetrating oil, and some patience. More patience than anything else. This one was so locked up, I had to take it completely apart and rebuild the whole, not rebuild, but just polish everything out and clean out all the oil. I put like lithium grease on there and it hardens up, so I had to take it apart. So I wouldn't recommend that you do that. And there's folks out there that have that skill level and can jump right in and do it. And I took a couple pictures to show you what happens when you take it apart. But again, I don't recommend you take it apart. There's a little cap on the side, there's a screw, and it all comes apart. But usually what you have to do is you have to oil everything that moves. This particular piece here goes down and goes through the casting, and that's where you have to oil back down here on both sides. And then this one, you have to oil here because this whole apparatus shifts in that. The little transmission shifts. If it doesn't shift, it won't engage and disengage. So down is the wind. That's when you push the button on top, you're actually pushing that. And then when you engage your bobbin wind, you're doing this. So, but inside what happens is this little guy here, quite often what you can do is just get a small screwdriver. I only have 100 of them here. Let's see if I can find where I hit them. Get a small screwdriver and just put it under here. This will lift right up. See, this pushes up and down. This little guy here pushes down, lifts up, and it shifts when it does that. It'll shift. So when that's up, it's winding. When it's down, it's driving. So you push it down, it's driving. Push this, and it causes a little pawl to push against that, and it pushes this down. When it pushes it down, then it spins the drag-on freewheel like that. And when you bring it around with this down, then you're driving. So that thing has to work up, down, up, down, up, down. Now, a lot of times you can just put penetrating oil and let it sit, work it back and forth, working back and forth. I took some pictures here. Let me show you on my phone real quick of taking this assembly apart. On the side over there, it slides open. This is the thing that pops up and down. When it's up, it looks like that. When it's down, it looks like that. Inside, you have the 3 screws. You have the little notches. One notch goes on the shaft, one does not. You got to take care of that. That's the little pin that goes on. Make sure of that. See, that outside thing clamps down. That's what makes it grab it. Made a little video here of it opening and closing. I'll show you that. See, it opens, expands it apart.
Release this, lift up on this, and it'll clamp it back down.
It grabs a hand wheel to wind. So it's a pretty elaborate little
So this button
setting.
makes this open and close this onto the shaft to freeze it.
Yep, what he said. And when I take it apart, it looks like this. You can see in there all the goop. I had to clean all that goop off. And you have 3 screws. This one is not the same as these two. This is longer and has a smaller cap on top. These are fatter and shorter. So make sure you know where those go when you take that apart. Again, I say don't take it apart, but you guys, there's some guys out there that are way smart to know how to do this. You're at my skill level or above. I've talked to you. I've texted with you. I know you're out there. So this unscrews, this little pin unscrews, that unscrews, this unscrews, and that spring connects onto there. And you put the spring load on there so you can load it. And there's another little video for you. Showing you this one's longer. That much longer, not much, but it has to be right. It's got a thinner top on the top there. And that goes in that hole where your little pawl is. I'll get it. There it goes in like that. And then the other two go in the other 2 holes. Then we'll go over to the next one. And when you put it all back together and you get it working, that's what happens. That thing shifts and that little baby bobs up and down.
When you put it back together, you want it to go like that. That's the correct operation. Make sure you know that this one's longer than these 2, skinnier top, and underneath here is a pin that goes down, and it all has to be lined up properly here. Trust me, no wiki.
So that's just, if you're brave enough to take all that apart, knowing how to get it back together is the key. But what has to happen is oil it, soak it with some penetrating oil, be very patient, and trust me, I've worked on these many times. Usually you don't need a screwdriver except to use it just to poke and prod. Generally, what goes on is just patience and working it back and forth. You really have to work it. When it's in that mode, it lines. When it's in this mode, she sews. That's all there is to it. Of course, ain't all there is to it. It took me 2 hours to do all that, so there's all there is to it. Yeah, right. All right, appreciate it. That's for Billy. Bye now.